It's been years since I last checked out the Blade 14 from Razer on this channel, and a lot has changed since then. I now live in LA, I'm now uploading in 4K, and the Blade 14, well, it looks a lot different now than it did 4 or 5 years ago. So what's new? To kick things off, the overall design looks a lot more modern and it looks a lot sleeker than what I've used in the past. The bezels are thinner on the sides, but if you look at the bottom of the display, there's a noticeable chin, which I'm honestly not a fan of. I would have loved to have a slightly bigger display to keep the bezels as thin as possible, but it is what it is. This isn't a deal breaker for me. The chassis feels really premium with that solid CNC aluminum build, and I've said this in the past, Razer laptops are essentially the MacBooks of Windows laptops. Besides Microsoft and its Surface line, Razer's Blade lineup is always going to be on the top of my list when it comes to build quality. However, since this is a premium device, you may want to add some scratch protection to keep this laptop pristine. I added a dbrand skin on top, which is their black camo, which in my opinion looks great with a green Razer logo. And on the inside, I also added a trackpad skin in that same black camo look. If you want to support the channel in any way, make sure to check out dbrand and their dope looking skins using the first link down below. Special shout out to dbrand for sponsoring a portion of this video. Now, the Razer Blade 14 that I'm checking out is the top of the line model, which retails for $27.99 at the time of making this video. And I know that's a lot of money for a laptop, and you can definitely buy cheaper ones and, well, a MacBook Pro with an M1 Max with that, but we'll talk more about the price tag later in the video. So in terms of the hardware inside the Blade 14, it features an AMD Ryzen 5900HX, which is a beast for multitasking. It has 8 cores with a base clock of 3.3 GHz and a max boost of 4.6 GHz, which is perfect if you're doing high intensive work like video editing or 3D CAD work. Now, this laptop also has 16 gigs of RAM, a terabyte of SSD, and the RTX 3080 inside. But you can also pick up the same Blade 14 with an RTX 3070, which is about $500 cheaper than this maxed out version. But there's also an RTX 3060 version with a full HD display that's even more affordable, but that one is a little tricky to find online at the moment. Now, before we jump into why I think the Blade 14 is one of my favorite gaming laptops that I've used this year, I actually have a few gripes with the Blade 14. In terms of purchasing and configuring your machine, I don't love the fact that you can't get a version with 32 gigs or 64 gigs of RAM, which in 2021 or 2022, whenever you're watching this, high-performance laptops that cost this much should have options to upgrade to more than 16 gigs of RAM. But in this scenario, you can't, which is just really disappointing. Another thing that I didn't like is not having USB 4 on this laptop. I know that USB 4 is fairly new, but it would have been nice to have some sort of high-speed port that I can use for certain accessories, like my Thunderbolt 3 external SSD or my Thunderbolt 3 dock. And the last thing I'm not a fan of are the speakers. I think I've just gotten used to Apple's MacBook speakers that every other laptop that I've used just sounds horrible. It's not loud, it sounds muffled, and I really think that they could have done a better job here. But besides that though, everything about the Blade 14 is pretty exciting. Now, if you were to open up the Blade 14 though, you will be able to replace the super fast 1TB SSD inside up to 2TB. However, my friend David Kogan, the unlocker, was actually able to replace his Blade's SSD with a 4TB drive, which technically isn't supported, but it works. I'll make sure to leave a link to his video below if you want to check that out. Now, the screen on the Blade 14 is a QHD display that features 165Hz, so everything is just buttery smooth. Whether I'm scrolling through websites or navigating windows or playing games, it's a really great experience. The colors are also super accurate. The QHD version has 100% DCI-P3 rating, which is perfect if you want the best and most accurate colors for video editing. Now, for gaming, the 165Hz and 10 millisecond response time actually makes a difference when gaming. I'm pretty competitive when it comes to Call of Duty Warzone, and having a super fast refresh rate and minimal response time guarantees that I have the upper hand. I can react way quicker, I see things a lot clearer, and with the RTX 3080 and Nvidia's collaboration with Call of Duty, there's a ton of options that I can enable to make sure that I'm gaming at the most optimal settings. Now, I get it, 14-inch is a pretty small display to play on competitively, but sometimes if you're on the go and you're just itching to play Warzone or Valorant or maybe something a little bit more casual like Forza Horizon 5, you just gotta do what you gotta do and enjoy playing games. Now, battery life on a gaming laptop usually sucks, and Razer claims that you can get up to 12 hours of battery life on a single charge with this Blade 14, but realistically, in the past several months that I've had this laptop, I'd average around 5 to 6 hours of normal everyday usage. Now, that's usually light photo editing, editing short form videos in Resolve, and replying to emails and watching videos. Now, you might have a better luck with the RTX 3060 and Full HD display, but with this maxed out version, you really won't be able to get more than 6 hours of battery. Gaming on battery though will only last about an hour and a half, maybe 2 at most. It really depends on the game you're playing, but also performance will take a hit after about 30 or so minutes of gaming, so I wouldn't recommend that. Plug your laptop in using the actual charger to get the best gaming experience. Speaking of gaming, AMD's Ryzen 5900HX paired with the RTX 3080 is just a monster. First off, cooling on this laptop is actually really good due to the bigger and better vapor chamber cooling system that they have in this laptop. You will hear the fans ramp up as you play games or edit high resolution videos in Resolve or whatever you edit on, but it's not terribly loud. I used to hate gaming or editing on my older Blade 14 because it would get way too hot to actually use it, but with this new Blade 14, it stays relatively cool and quiet, even under load, which I think you'll appreciate as well. Now, in terms of the games that I play on a daily basis on this Blade 14, with everything set to high at 1440p in Call of Duty Warzone, I'd average around 100 frames, sometimes it'll drop closer to 90, which isn't terrible, but I was hoping I could average around 120 frames per second at least since this is using an RTX 3080, but to be fair, Warzone isn't the most optimized game out there, so I totally get it. In Rocket League, with everything on high, I'd average around 240 frames per second, which is perfect. I'm not really good at this game anymore, but I'll usually play for a solid hour and get consistent 240 plus frames, which is incredible. In Overwatch, with everything on high, I'd get around 140 frames per second, which is good enough for me, but I could push it to 165 if I wanted to if I turned some settings down, but I'm pretty happy with its performance. In Forza Horizon 5, I can easily get 120 frames per second with everything set to high, and if I tune the settings just right, I can go way beyond that, which is great. This game is probably the most beautiful game I've played as of late, and if you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend it. Even if you're not a fan of racing games, you just have to experience it. To wrap it all up though, I'm hearing that the RTX 3070 version of the Blade 14 actually performs nearly the same as the 3080 variant that I have, but it costs $500 to $700 less, so you may want to look into that version instead if you're looking to save some doll hairs and thinking of picking up the Blade 14. The 3080 variant is amazing and it's what I've been using for a while now, don't get me wrong, it's really good and it's really fast, but if the performance difference is 5% or less, it's not worth spending that extra $500 for the 3080. If I were you, I would just pocket the money and use it for some sort of warranty or use it on accessories. I honestly wish that the RTX 3080 variant had 32 gigs of RAM to justify the higher price tag, but unfortunately all versions of the Blade 14 are equipped with 16 gigs of RAM that's non-user replaceable, but still, when it comes to build quality, portability, and performance on a Windows laptop, the Blade 14, in my opinion, is the best gaming laptop that you can buy in this specific form factor. There are more affordable laptops with similar specs or with similar RTX cards in it, but it's not as premium nor as portable as this Blade 14. I won't compare it to Apple's 14-inch M1 Max because we all know how much faster that laptop is, and the MacBook Pro isn't really a gaming laptop. Now, if you're strictly looking for a gaming laptop though that you can also use to edit videos on, I would look into this. I think you'll be pretty happy with it. I've had nothing but great experiences with Razer laptops in the past, and you should check them out if you haven't yet. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment what you think about the video, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next one.